No.
Most
My
of you were
group
mining
project members
yesterday.
tried to
No,
plagiarize,
use
so I
it.
got him
If we
expelled,
find
not
more, we
knowing that he
find
would
more.
spend
If we don't,
almost
we
a
don't.
decade planning
You
his
know,
revenge. In my
that's how it
first year of
works.
college, everyone in my course was pretty much a deadbeat, but one stood out more than the rest. Someone I like to call
I
Deadbeat
know,
Daniel.
yes,
He was literally
indeed.
the definition of useless. On the first
And
day,
they're
Deadbeat
green.
Daniel came in and
Yes,
started
there
lighting
is.
up a
I
cigarette in the
have
middle
no
of the
idea what it's
lecture. And when the
called.
teacher started
I
tweaking
don't
out,
know
he put out the cigarette on the wall and claimed it was fine in his old school. And because it was a ghetto community school, he was allowed to stay enrolled. And it's not like I was a try-hard or anything, but I did somewhat care about my grades. So when Deadbeat Daniel would scroll on his phone in every lecture with the volume
I
on,
think I
it
need to
ticked
go
me
change
off
my
a lot.
pants.
And just when I finally trained myself
And
to
make a
ignore
cup
his
of tea.
existence, we were forced to work on a group project together. I'll spare you the details,
Okay.
but everyone, including me,
I'm gonna
handed
go
in our
make a
work
cup of
just
tea.
minutes before
I'll
the
be
deadline,
right back.
with the exception of course, Deadbeat Daniel. He handed his part in 2 full days after the deadline, which is literally insane considering that we each only had 350 words to write. Something in me told me to read his work, and I'm so glad I did, because I immediately recognized it from a Wikipedia page that I had read, copied word for word, no changes. I pinched the bridge of my nose and took a deep breath before calling Deadbeat Daniel. I knew asking him to rewrite it would be too much, so I simply asked if he could at least change the wording on every third sentence. Bro, do it yourself, bro. I already played my part and submitted. Don't call me again. I thought about every cigarette he put out on my book bag, every coffee he spilled onto my desk, every time I nearly gagged from how awful he smelled. My body was immediately filled with hatred. I texted Deadbeat Daniel and told him if he didn't step up, I would tell the professor how much of a crappy group member he was. And instead of actually doing it, or even just texting some sort of apology, Deadbeat Daniel sent me a threat. He said he would tell the professor that I was the one who didn't do anything. I stared at his message for a few minutes, and my thumbs danced over the screen debating what to say. In the end, I ignored him and went to the professor. I told him everything, hoping for some kind of punishment, but he just nodded and told me to get out because he wanted to go home early. I was so taken aback that I didn't even argue. I just left. When the results came out, Deadbeat Daniel got an A and I got a C. Go figure. After that, I never heard about it again, until a week later, that is, because that's when the professor finally called me into his office. I felt a rush of excitement as we both sat down. He told me he had found out about my plagiarism. He said my essays were being put under academic review. My heart dropped. I asked him what he was talking about, and he said he had found out about my true motivations to frame Deadbeat Daniel. But now, my facade is over. I buried my face in my hands. I had trouble keeping myself from bursting into tears. That's when my professor let out a deep belly, guttural laugh. I'm just busting your chops, boy. Daniel is expelled, not you. You should have seen your face. I stared at him blankly, feeling more relieved than celebratory. I guess I was just happy it was finally over. Without Deadbeat Daniel, lectures were smooth sailing. My grades went up by 300%, and life was great. I managed to transfer into a university and graduated with a 3.9 GPA. I had literally become the definition of turning over a new leaf. I even lost my V card and got a girlfriend, all in the same year. But then, as I walked into my internship orientation with a big smile on my face, I wanted to commit suicide, just like in 8th grade. Because who did I see? None other than my Deadbeat Daniel, standing there with a smile that inflated even more as soon as he saw me. He knew what I had done, and he was ready to bring his worst. I noticed he was still wearing the same battered watch with the cracked face that he'd had in college, but his clothes looked newer and more expensive, though still worn with the same careless attitude. Melissa, the HR manager, started calling everyone to take seats for the presentation. I found the furthest possible chair from Daniel and tried to focus on what she was saying, but my mind was racing. How did he even get this internship? The company was pretty selective. I had to go through 3 rounds of interviews and submit a portfolio of my work, not to mention the multiple reference checks they conducted. As the orientation proceeded, I kept catching Daniel glancing my way, that smirk never leaving his face. I checked my phone during our first break and saw a new message from an unknown number. Long time no see, buddy. Hope you're ready for round 2. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to immediately go to HR and explain the history between us, but another part knew that would make me look like a problem employee on day 1. I shoved my phone back in my pocket as Melissa called us back from break. All right, interns, now we'll be assigning you to your department mentors, she said cheerfully, completely oblivious to the psychological warfare happening right under her nose. I tried to focus on her words, but my mind kept drifting back to Daniel. How the hell did he even get this position? The company was one of the top marketing firms in the city. They had standards, for Christ's sake. When they called my name, I was assigned to the digital marketing team under some guy named Rick. Then they called Daniel's name. My breath caught in my throat. Daniel, you'll be with the social media team under Jennifer. Thank God. At least we'd be in different departments. Small victories, right? After orientation wrapped up, I made a beeline for the elevator. I was almost there when I felt a hand clap my shoulder. Hey man, crazy running into you here. Daniel's voice was just as irritating as I remembered. Small world, huh? I turned around slowly. What do you want, Daniel? He put his hands up defensively. Whoa, just being friendly. We're colleagues now. Water under the bridge and all that. I stared at him skeptically. You just texted me, hope you're ready for round 2, and now you want to pretend everything's cool? He laughed. Just messing with you, bro. No hard feelings about that whole college thing, right? The elevator doors opened, and I stepped in without answering. As they started to close, Daniel stuck his hand between them, forcing them back open. He got in beside me. Look, he said, his voice dropping the fake friendliness. I just want you to know that I earned this internship. Fair and square. I couldn't help myself. I snorted. Something funny? His eyes narrowed. Just wondering if Wikipedia helped with your application too, I muttered. The elevator reached the lobby, and I stepped out quickly. Daniel followed. You know what? I was gonna let bygones be bygones. icons, but fuck that now, he hissed as we walked through the lobby. You think you're so much better than me? I stopped and turned to face him. I don't think about you at all, Daniel, and I'd appreciate if you returned the favor. That was a lie. I'd thought about him plenty in the last 2 minutes. Yeah, well, we'll see who's the superstar intern by the end of this program, he said, that stupid smirk returning to his face. Is everything a competition to you? I asked, exasperated. Only when I'm winning, he replied, then turned and headed toward the parking lot. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. This was supposed to be my fresh start, my chance to build connections, and maybe land a full-time position. And now deadbeat Daniel was threatening to ruin it all over again. I called my girlfriend, Sarah, as soon as I got to my car. We'd been dating for about 8 months after meeting in that statistics class at the university. She was smart, level-headed, and exactly who I needed to talk to right now. He's probably just trying to get in your head, she said after I explained the situation. Don't let him. Easier said than done, I replied, starting my car. You don't know this guy. He's like a cockroach, impossible to get rid of and pops up when you least expect it. Well, maybe it's time you stopped running from the cockroach and just stepped on it, Sarah suggested. I laughed. That's dark. I'm just saying, don't let him control the narrative this time. She was right, of course. I needed to take charge of the situation before Daniel had a chance to screw me over again. The next day, I arrived early for my first real day of work. I met Rick, my mentor, a laid-back guy in his 30s with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and an impressive collection of Star Wars figurines on his desk. He walked me through the basics of the job and assigned me my first project, creating a social media strategy for a small local business. I was deep into research when I heard a familiar laugh from across the office. I looked up to see Daniel chatting with a group of employees like they were old friends. One of them was Jennifer, his mentor. She seemed completely charmed by whatever bullshit he was spinning. Throughout the next week, I kept my head down and focused on my work. Rick seemed impressed with my progress, and I was starting to feel like maybe this situation with Daniel would work itself out. We were in different departments after all. I barely saw him except for the occasional run-in by the coffee machine or in the elevator. Then came the company-wide email about the intern project competition. To foster creativity and team building, all interns will be paired up to compete in developing marketing strategies for our newest client, Green Life Organics. The winning team will receive a bonus and special recognition from upper management. My stomach dropped as I scrolled down to see the team assignments. There, at the top of the list, Team 1, Daniel Martinez, and my name. I nearly threw my computer across the room. This had to be a joke. I immediately marched over to HR and asked to speak with Melissa. I'm sorry, but I can't work with Daniel, I told her once we were in her office. We have a complicated history. Melissa looked at me sympathetically but shook her head. The teams were randomly assigned. It wouldn't be fair to the other interns if we made changes now. But plus, she continued, learning to work with difficult personalities is part of professional development. Think of it as a growth opportunity. A growth opportunity, right? More like an opportunity for Daniel to sabotage my career before it even started. I trudged back to my desk, feeling defeated. Rick noticed my mood and asked what was wrong. Just found out who my partner is for the intern competition, I muttered. Rick glanced at the email. Oh, Daniel? He seems like a nice guy, always bringing donuts for the social media team. Great. Daniel was already working his charm on the entire office. I was starting to feel like I was back in community college all over again. That afternoon, I got an email from Daniel. Let's meet in conference room B after work to discuss our project. Don't be late. Bringing pizza. At least there would be food. I arrived at the conference room at 5:30. Daniel was already there, 2 pizza boxes open on the table. He was wearing a button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking annoyingly professional. There he is, he said as I walked in. Grab a slice. I cautiously took a piece of pizza and sat down across from him. Look, he started. I know we've had our differences, but this project is important to me. I want to win. Why? So you can rub it in my face? He rolled his eyes. Not everything is about you, man. I want to impress Jennifer. I think she might put in a good word with the hiring manager if we do well. I took a bite of pizza, considering this. So, what's your angle here? We work together, win the competition, and then you go back to making my life miserable? How about we just focus on winning first? He suggested. Truce until the competition is over? I wasn't sure if I trusted him, but I didn't have much choice. Fine, truce. We spent the next hour brainstorming ideas for Green Life Organics. To my surprise, Daniel actually had some decent insights. He might have been a deadbeat in college, but he seemed to have a natural instinct for what would appeal to consumers. As we were wrapping up, he casually asked, so, you dating anyone? The question caught me off guard. Yeah, her name's Sarah. We met at university. He nodded. Cool. You should bring her to the company party next week. There's a party? Yeah, it's not official or anything. Just some of us getting together at the rooftop bar downtown. Jennifer organized it. I was suspicious of his sudden friendliness, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to network with other employees. Maybe we will. The week progressed, and Daniel and I fell into an uneasy rhythm of cooperation. We met every evening to work on our project, and I had to admit, we were coming up with some solid ideas. Green Life Organics was looking for a way to appeal to younger consumers without alienating their established customer base. Daniel suggested a dual campaign, traditional marketing for their existing customers and a more edgy social media approach for the younger demographic. I was starting to think that maybe he had changed since college. Maybe getting expelled had been a wake-up call for him. Then I found the file. I was looking through our shared project folder when I noticed a document titled Backup Plan. Curious, I opened it. It was a complete marketing strategy, similar to what we were working on, but with some key differences, and it only had Daniel's name on it. The bastard was preparing a solo project as a backup in case I failed, or in case he decided to screw me over and submit it as his own. I confronted him about it the next day. What the hell is this? I demanded, showing him the file on my laptop. He didn't even look embarrassed. Just something I was working on as a plan B.
It was more the heart failure that
it looks like you're planning to ditch our project.
I was worried about.
Instead. He shrugged. Always good to have options. reasons. That's not how partnerships
The heart
work.
failure
We're
of
supposed to be a
getting
team.
there?
Look, I didn't think you'd find that
During
it's just a precaution. I closed
my
laptop,
arduous trip to the
fuming. Are you
kitchen.
seriously pulling the same shit as in college? I thought you said you changed. I never said I changed, he replied, looking annoyed. I said I wanted to win. There's a difference. I gathered my things and stood up. I'm not doing this again. Either we work together for real, or I tell Melissa what you're up to. He laughed. Go ahead. Who do you think they'll believe? The guy who brings donuts and makes everyone laugh, or the paranoid dude who's obviously jealous of his more popular colleague? It was community college all over again. Daniel had spent the last week charming everyone in the office while I had been heads down in my work. He'd even befriended Rich, dropping by our department to borrow supplies just so he could chat with my mentor. I left the conference room feeling defeated. I needed a new plan. The company party was that Friday night. Sarah agreed to come with me, though she wasn't thrilled about it after I told her Daniel would be there. I want to see this cockroach for myself, she said, as we got ready in my apartment. The rooftop bar was packed when we arrived. Most of the interns and junior staff were already there, along with a few of the mentors, including Jennifer, and surprisingly, Rick. Daniel spotted us immediately and made his way over. He was wearing a fitted blazer over a t-shirt, looking effortlessly cool. I hated him even more for it. Hey man, and you must be Sarah, he said, extending his hand to my girlfriend. I've heard so much about you. Sarah shook his hand, her face neutral. Funny, I've heard a lot about you too. Daniel laughed, seemingly unfazed by her cold tone. All good things, I hope. Not even close, she replied with a sweet smile. I suppressed a grin. This was why I loved her. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. Well, drinks are on me tonight. What can I get you both? Just a beer for me, I said. Wine, please. White, Sarah added. Daniel nodded and made his way to the bar. As soon as he was out of earshot, Sarah turned to me. Okay, I get it now. He's got that fake charm thing going on. Very punchable face. I laughed. Told you. So what's your plan? She asked. Still working on that. For now, I'm just trying to get through this project without him screwing me over. Daniel returned with our drinks and spent the next 20 minutes trying to impress Sarah with stories about his college adventures, conveniently leaving out the part where he got expelled. Sarah played along, asking seemingly innocent questions that subtly highlighted the inconsistencies in his stories. So after you graduated, did you go straight into marketing? She asked sweetly. Daniel hesitated. Not exactly. I took some time off, did some traveling. Oh, with what money? I thought you said your family wasn't well off. I watched as Daniel scrambled to patch the holes in his fabricated life story. Sarah was systematically dismantling his fake persona, and it was glorious to watch. Eventually, Jennifer called Daniel over to meet someone, and he excused himself. You're incredible, I told Sarah once he was gone. She shrugged. He's not very good at lying. Too many details that don't add up. As the night progressed, I noticed Daniel was getting friendlier with the higher-ups, including some people from departments I didn't even know existed at the company. He was working the room like a pro, while I mostly stuck with Sarah, Rick, and a few other interns. At one point, I went to get more drinks and overheard Daniel talking to Jennifer, and a guy I recognized as one of the senior managers. Really carrying the team.
There is a hole somewhere.
I'm doing most of the work on our project. My partner's nice and all, but he trailed off with a meaningful look. My blood boiled. That lying sack of shit. I was about to interrupt and set the record straight when Sarah appeared at my side. Everything okay? She asked, noticing my expression. I nodded toward Daniel.
You could go in Spectator and then figure out where it is, and then...
You know what? Let him. What? Why? Because liars always trip themselves up eventually, she said. If he's taking all the credit now, he'll have to deliver later. And from what you've told me, delivering isn't exactly his strong suit. She had a point. Daniel was setting expectations he couldn't possibly meet on his own. Next week, our project deadline was approaching fast. Daniel and I were scheduled to present our marketing strategy to a panel of managers on Friday. Despite everything, we'd actually put together a solid presentation. Daniel had even incorporated some of my research into his parts, which surprised me. On Thursday afternoon, I was putting the finishing touches on our slide deck when Rick stopped by my desk. How's the project coming along? He asked.
Yeah, I think my heart is still trying to
Jennifer says Daniel's been working his ass off on it. Says he's got some innovative approaches to the youth demographic. I felt a twinge of annoyance, but kept my expression neutral. Yeah, we've both been putting in a lot of hours. Rick looked at me for a moment, then lowered his voice. Listen, I know it's none of my business, but there are some rumors going around about you and Daniel not getting along. Great. So Daniel had been spreading gossip too. We have a complicated history, I admitted, but we're making it work for the project. Rick nodded. Well, just so you know, people are watching this presentation pretty closely. The client might even be there. That was news to me. The actual client, Green Life Organics.
Okay.
Yep, apparently they're considering hiring from the intern pool for their in-house marketing team.
No?
It's a great opportunity. After Rick left, I immediately called Daniel. Did you know the client is going to be at our presentation tomorrow? I demanded when he answered. Yeah, Jennifer mentioned it this morning. Cool, right? And you didn't think to tell me? He sighed. I'm telling you now. What's the big deal? The big deal is that there might be jobs on the line here, Daniel. Actual jobs. Exactly. All the more reason for us to nail this presentation. I was about to argue further when he cut me off. Look, I've got to go. Jennifer asked me to help with something. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Don't stress so much. He hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, feeling that familiar sense of dread. Daniel obviously saw this as his big chance, and I didn't trust him not to throw me under the bus if it meant securing a job for himself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went over our presentation again and again, looking for any weaknesses Daniel might exploit. By morning, I was a mess of anxiety and caffeine. I arrived at the office an hour early, planning to review everything one last time. To my surprise, Daniel was already there, looking surprisingly professional in a proper suit and tie. Morning, he said when I walked in. Ready for the big show? I nodded. Because I made some changes to the presentation last night. My heart sank. What kind of changes? He pulled up the updated updated slide deck on his laptop. Nothing major, just reordered some slides and added a few points about sustainability. I looked through the new deck, half expecting to find my name removed or my research distorted, but everything seemed fine, better than fine.
Well,
actually. The changes he made were good. This looks
I
great.
retracted my
reluctantly.
hands.
He smiled, but not his usual smirk. This looked
and
almost genuine.
everything
Thanks.
just,
I figured the client would want more emphasis on the eco-friendly angle, given their brand. We spent the next hour rehearsing our parts. Daniel had taken the first half of the presentation, leaving me with the second half, including the conclusion. It was a fair split, and he seemed well prepared. As the meeting time approached, people started filling the conference room. Rick and Jennifer were there, along with several managers I recognized from the party. And in the front row, a woman in a green blazer who I assumed must be from Green Life Organics. Daniel nudged me. That's Karen Hughes, the marketing director at Green Life. Jennifer introduced us at the party last week. Of course, he'd already met her. Daniel was nothing if not opportunistic. The presentation started, and Daniel kicked it off with confidence. He was charming, articulate, and completely in control of the room. I had to admit, he was good at this part of the job. Then it was my turn. I started strong, walking through our research and strategies. But as I was explaining our budget allocation, I noticed Daniel checking his phone under the table. Then he started typing something. I tried to stay focused, but it was distracting. What was so important that he needed to text during our presentation? I was about halfway through my section when the conference room door opened. A man in a suit walked in and handed a note to one of the managers, who read it and then whispered something to the others. They all looked at their phones. I continued presenting, but I could feel the energy in the room shifting. People were distracted now, checking their devices and whispering to each other. Is everything okay? I finally asked, pausing my presentation. The manager who'd received the note looked up. I'm sorry, but we need to cut this short. There's been a situation that requires our attention. My heart sank. After all our preparation, we weren't even going to finish.
That's how you make a build boring.
Sounding as disappointed as I felt. The manager hesitated. It appears someone has leaked confidential information about Green Life Organics on social media. Their stock is taking a hit. All eyes turned to Karen from Green Life, who was frantically typing on her phone. She looked up, her face pale. The information in the leak, it's from the confidential supplementary files we provided for your team to work on this project. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then everyone started talking at once. Who had access to those files? Only the interns working on this project.
Kinda, only kinda.
Drive logs. I looked at Daniel, who seemed just
I spent all that time on that for.
But then I noticed something.
Why the bathrooms also?
The meeting dissolved into chaos. Karen from Green Life left
you were
saying she
overdoing
needed
it.
to call her PR team. The
Because I
managers
made the
huddled together,
bathrooms just
discussing
white.
how to handle the situation. Rick motioned for me to follow him out of the conference room.
There's
What the hell
that.
happened?
Well,
to
who
Sam?
wants
I asked
just
once
a
we were
white
in the hallway.
bathroom?
Rick looked grim. Someone leaked proprietary information about Green Life's new
My
product
bathroom
line.
floor is
It's all
not
over
white.
Twitter now. But who would do that? And why? He shook his head. I don't know. But
Yeah,
they're checking
but
the
you're
server logs
special.
now to see who accessed those files recently. My mind was
See,
racing.
they're
The
all
only
white.
people with access to those files were the interns
Oh,
working on
shit!
Green Life projects.
I think my
and our
backpack
mentors.
just
I had
died.
access to them, of course, but so had the texting during my presentation, the timing of the leak. It wasn't a coincidence.
fueled
I
mine
found
up
Daniel
before
in the break
stream.
room, calmly
Yeah,
making a cup of
so did
coffee
I.
as if nothing had happened. Did you do it? I demanded, keeping my
Oh, you
voice
must
low.
be doing
He
a
looked at
whole
me
lot of
innocently.
lying.
Do what? Leak the Green Life information during our presentation.
oh, my
Was that
finger
you?
must have
He sipped his
slipped.
coffee. Why would I sabotage my own presentation? I don't know, Daniel. Why did you submit plagiarized work in college?
No,
Why did
everything's-
you make a backup plan for our project? You tell me. Before he could answer, Jennifer appeared in the doorway. It wants to see both of you. Now. We followed her to a small office where a tech guy was sitting at a
Okay.
computer. One of the senior managers was there too, looking furious. We checked the logs, the
This
tech guy said
jetpack
without
sounds like
preamble.
a
The files were
clock.
accessed yesterday afternoon from one of the intern computers.
It's
My stomach dropped.
explosive.
I had accessed those files yesterday while finalizing our presentation. Can you tell which computer? The
I
manager
first
asked.
started
The tech
using
guy
it, I
nodded.
thought it was a
Workstation
clock.
14B. I tried to remember which computer I used. Was it 14B? I couldn't recall the station number. That's your workstation, Jennifer said, looking at Daniel. All eyes turned to him. He laughed nervously. I mean, yeah, I accessed the files for our presentation. We both did. The files were sent to an external email address, the tech guy continued. A Gmail account. Daniel's face paled slightly. I might have sent them to my personal email so I could work from home. Is that against the
Oh,
rules?
no.
The
That's not
manager's
the one.
expression darkened. The
Oh, I'm
confidentiality
out.
agreement you signed on your
and-
first
and
day
this is also
explicitly
wrong.
forbids removing company documents from
You're
our
out of
secure
what?
network. Daniel looked
this thing.
genuinely worried now. I didn't know that included working from home. I was
trim.
just trying to be thorough with our presentation. The timing of the leak coincides exactly with when you were on your phone during the presentation,
But
I
I
pointed
can
out.
easily
Daniel
make
shot
more.
me a betrayed look. You're seriously accusing me
Yeah, I
right
don't
now?
have-
I wasn't leaking anything. I was texting my mom.
No,
Show us
you
your
need
phone
to
then,
have,
Jennifer suggested. Daniel
calcite
hesitated.
for
I don't
that.
have to do that. It's
I
private.
started
The
with
manager stood up.
5,000
Daniel,
calcite
we need to
and
continue
down
this
to
conversation in HR.
3,000.
Jennifer, please escort him. As they left, the tech guy
That's a
turned
lot
to his
of
computer
blocks.
again. There's something else. The leaked information wasn't in the general briefing packet. It was in a supplementary file
I
that
have
only one of the
part.
interns downloaded.
Yeah, I do
Which
have
one?
that.
I asked, though I already suspected the answer.
Upstairs.
User Dia Martinez downloaded it yesterday at 4:37 p.m. I remembered that time clearly. Daniel
I
had
have
said
four
he needed to
calcites
leave
there.
early for a doctor's appointment. I'd stayed to finish our slides while he supposedly went to the doctor. Instead, he
can
downloaded
probably
confidential
make something with
information
that.
and then leaked it during our presentation. But why?
Like a
What
way
did he
to go
gain
down
from
or a
tanking
way
our
to go up?
presentation and
Two
potentially
things
getting
even.
himself fired? As everyone focused on processing what had just happened, Rick pulled me aside into an empty meeting room. Look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but this is serious. The Green Life people are furious, he said, running his hand through his hair. I nodded, still trying to piece everything together. I honestly don't
If I
understand
wouldn't
why he'd do this. It makes no
Sad.
sense. Rick shook his head.
Ooh.
Well, I've got your back,
Oh,
but you need
wow.
to stay far away from this mess. HR is
wow.
going to be interviewing everyone involved.
I
Sure
wouldn't
enough,
know.
I spent the next hour in a tiny office with
That
Melissa
sounds
from
sexy.
HR and
Oh,
some guy
dear.
from legal,
That was
answering
not so
questions
sexy.
about my access to the files and my history with Daniel. I told them everything, from our community college days to finding his backup plan for our project. So you're saying there's a pattern of sabotage? Melissa asked, typing notes into her laptop. More like a pattern of him doing whatever benefits him in the moment, regardless of who gets hurt, I replied. The legal guy looked skeptical, but leaking this
No,
information
German beers
doesn't
have
seem to
no
benefit him at all.
preservatives in
It's
them,
career
so,
suicide. He was right. That was the part I couldn't
they,
figure out. Daniel was opportunistic,
rely
not stupid.
on,
Surely he knew leaking confidential client information would get him
fermentation a
fired,
lot
maybe
more.
even sued. When I finally left the HR office, the
And,
entire floor was buzzing with whispers. I checked my
that's
phone
not
to
good
find
for the
3
tummy.
missed calls from Sarah
After a
and a
certain
text.
age.
WTF is happening? News about Green Life leak is everywhere. I called her back immediately and filled her in on the chaos. That's insane, she said when I finished. But are you sure Daniel did it? It sounds like something bigger might be going on.
And
The
after I
evidence
got
points to him,
diabetes, I
I
haven't
said,
drank
though her
anything.
skepticism was making me second guess myself. But you're right. It doesn't make sense for him to torpedo his own career like this. I was heading back to my desk
Right
when
before
I
I
overheard
found
Jennifer
out
talking to another mentor near the break
that I
room.
was
Already had
diabetic.
another job lined
I
up at
tried
Apex
Guinness.
Digital. Apparently they've been trying to get Green Life's new product specs for months. I froze.
And my
Apex Digital was Green Life's
my aunt's
biggest
like,
competitor.
"Hey,
You think
I
he was
have
working for
Guinness
them the whole
in the fridge.
time?
Go
The
get
other
one,
mentor
share
asked.
it."
Jennifer shrugged. Who knows? But IT found emails from
I'm
an
like,
Apex recruiter in his company
but-
account dating back
but
to his first
you're
week
not
here.
old enough
Holy
to drink
shit.
a whole-
Daniel hadn't just been
I'm like,
sabotaging our
but-
presentation. He'd
but-
been corporate spying. That's why he'd been so eager to
I have
work on the
2
Green Life
kids.
project. That's why he'd gone out of his way to charm Jennifer and get close
I
to
think I
Karen
was,
from
like,
Green Life at the
48
party.
at the
He was
time.
being paid
Oh
substantially
my
by
goodness.
Apex to
I'm
get
like,
insider information. I should have
but-
felt vindicated.
but-
This was proof that Daniel was exactly the snake I'd always thought he was. Instead, I felt sick. If Daniel had been spying for Apex,
I'm a
But that
few
damn
times
thing went
21.
down so
including
smooth.
me. I rushed back to my desk and started gathering my
I
things.
was like,
I
oh
needed
my
to get out of
God,
there
this is
before I got
good.
dragged any
And
deeper
my
into
aunt's
this
like,
mess.
and this is
Going
why you
somewhere,
can't
I
have
looked
the
up
whole-
to see Daniel standing by my desk. He'd somehow escaped HR's clutches and looked surprisingly
She's
calm
like,
for
"Your
someone who'd
husband
just
wouldn't
been caught
appreciate if I
leaking
took you home
confidential
drunk."
information. What the hell, Daniel? I hissed, keeping my voice low. You were
But I
spying
would,
for Apex?
because I
He
could
laughed.
go-
Is
would
that
get
what you're
home.
saying now? Wow, rumors spread fast around here. I overheard Jennifer talking about emails from Apex in your account. Daniel
was talking
rolled his
to
eyes. I applied there before
German
I got
guy
this
from the
internship.
company
They
that
reached
was
out last
throwing
week
the
about an
shindig.
opening. That's it. So
And,
you're denying
Uh-huh.
leaking the Green Life
he's
information?
like,
He leaned in close.
oh,
What I'm
I'm gonna
saying
have
is
a
that
lot
you
of
might want to
these
check your
beers.
sent emails
So,
before you start.
well, I hope you don't have to
My blood
drive
ran
because,
cold. What are you talking about? Maybe
well,
someone
the
used your
police
account
is
to send
rather
some sensitive
strict here.
files. Maybe that someone
And
also
he's like,
used
oh,
your
no, I
workstation
just have
when
to
you were in
roll
the
across the
bathroom
street,
yesterday.
and that's
Who
where
knows?
the
He straightened
hotel
up and
is.
smiled. Good luck explaining that to HR.
You
Before
just
I
have
could
to
respond,
what?
two
Roll
security
across the
guards
street.
appeared at the entrance to our area. Daniel nodded at them as if he'd been expecting them. That's my cue to leave. See you around, buddy. I watched in disbelief as Daniel casually walked toward the elevators, not the security guards. They weren't there for him. They were looking
I mean,
at me.
as
Excuse
a
me,
Dutchman,
sir.
we-
HR
we,
needs to see you again, one of them said when they
we have a
reached my
joke,
desk. I felt like I was going to throw up.
which is,
Daniel had framed me.
what is the
Somehow he'd made it
thinnest
look like
book
I
ever
was the
written?
one who leaked the files. The second HR meeting was a lot less friendly than the
4
first.
centuries
Melissa was
of-
now joined by the head of HR
4 centuries
and
of
2 people
German
I recognized
humor.
as executives. We have some concerns about new information that's come to light, Melissa began, her tone now cold and professional. Daniel
They
framed
don't
me,
have a
I blurted out.
humor.
Whatever
They
you
don't.
found, he set it up.
just
The head of HR
I'm
raised
just
an eyebrow.
groaning at
That's a
that
serious
one.
accusation. Do you have any proof?
Oh,
Of
what,
course I
you're
didn't.
German?
That was the problem with Daniel. He was always one step
And
ahead.
Polish,
We found
actually.
additional evidence that the leaked
See, there
information
you
was
go.
sent from your
At
email
least you have
account
some
to a
sanity
Gmail
in
address
yours,
registered
though.
in your name, Melissa continued. That's impossible, I said. I never
No,
sent
I had-
anything to
well,
a personal email.
no,
The
but I
timestamps
mean-
show it happened yesterday
No.
at 2:15 p.m.
I do have a
According to
sense of
security,
humor.
your key card was used to enter the bathroom
that's
at
your
2:12
Polish
p.m.
side.
and exit at 2:20 p.m. Daniel's words echoed in my head. Maybe someone used your account when you were in the bathroom yesterday. Daniel must have used my computer
but-
while I was gone. I
thought I'd
explained
file
desperately.
it.
He just
No,
told
no,
me
I'm
himself he did
I
it.
thought
The
that meant I'd do
executives
everything
exchanged
backwards.
skeptical glances. I could see them mentally
No, the
categorizing me
polls
as the
are-
guilty party trying to blame someone else. We've suspended
are
Daniel pending
amazing
further
people.
investigation, the head of HR said. But given the evidence, we're going to have
Yeah,
to
that one
suspend
is a
you
little
as
bit
well.
off there,
I left the
but-
building in a daze, clutching a letter outlining my suspension
The
and
windows are
investigation
huge.
Oh, that's
process.
cool.
Daniel was nowhere to be seen.
Mhm.
Security had already deactivated my key
They
card
kinda
and
go
escorted me to my car
counterproductive
like a
to,
criminal. Sarah was waiting at my apartment when I got home. I told
the
her
height I
everything,
wanna
including
create.
Daniel's cryptic comments and the evidence supposedly linking me to the leak. This
So
is
are the
ridiculous,
arches,
she said
actually.
after I finished. They
it'll
can't
be
possibly
fine.
think you did this. The evidence says I did.
Are you
I
doing
replied,
those windows
collapsing
over
onto
there
my
the same
couch.
as
My
these ones
email,
over
my
here?
workstation,
Yeah.
even the timing matches when I was in the bathroom. Sarah paced the room,
If I can
thinking,
find it.
we need to prove Daniel did this. There has to be a way. I shook my head. He's too careful. That's why he's always gotten away with everything. Not everything,
Got 4
Sarah
arches.
reminded me. He got expelled from college, remember? That sparked something in my
it's
memory.
the same
Daniel
as,
had been careful in college too.
No,
but
you're
he
right.
slipped up with the
4
plagiarism
arches over
because
there.
he was lazy.
3
He
over
copied
here.
directly
Yeah,
from
and 3 over
Wikipedia
here.
without
Three
even
over
changing
That's
the formatting.
exactly
Maybe he
how
got
it is
sloppy there,
IRL.
I said, sitting up straight. When did you say the news about the leak broke? Sarah checked her phone. First tweets were around 11:45 a.m.
I
right in the
guess
middle
the
of
Fringe have a hard
presentation.
time
I grabbed my
counting
laptop
things.
and pulled up my email. If Daniel sent those files using my account, there
Must
should be a
be,
record
right?
in my sent items. Sure enough, there it was.
Oh, man,
An
these
email
windows
sent
are
to a
so
Gmail address at
horizontal, it's
2:15
not
p.m. the
funny.
previous day with the green life files attached. The Gmail address was my first and last name, but I'd never created it. Look at the IP address in the email header, Sarah suggested. She worked in IT security, so she knew what to look for. I forwarded her the email, and she examined it on her phone. This was sent from within your company network, but she paused, squinting at the screen. The user agent string is different from your laptop. You use Chrome, right? I nodded. This was sent from Firefox.
Why are you on my head?
Use Firefox? I've seen him using it, yeah. A glimmer of hope sparked in my chest. Is that enough to prove it wasn't me? Sarah grimaced. Not by itself, but it's a start. Over the next few days, Sarah helped me build my case. We discovered the Gmail account had been created just 2 days before the leak from an IP address that matched a coffee shop near Daniel's apartment. We also found login attempts to my company account from outside the network during times I was definitely at my desk. A week into my suspension, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Hello? It's Rick. Don't tell anyone I called you. My former mentor sounded tense.
That arena thing doesn't work yet.
Sarah could hear. What's going on? I asked. Daniel started at Apex Digital yesterday, Rick said. Jennifer has a friend who works there who told her. Thought you should know. She's already working on the competition while we're both still under investigation. That's not all, Rick continued. It found something weird on his
Water belay is going strong today.
Used to capture your passwords. This was it. Proof that Daniel had set me up. Rick, I need you to tell HR about this. He hesitated.
What the hell?
The problem. The program was installed using administrative credentials. Traced back to your account. My brief moment of hope crashed. That's impossible. I don't have admin access. Exactly. Which means either you had help from someone in IT, or Daniel
at least I know now there's a 2-second delay.
Thought I finished. After Rick hung up, Sarah and I sat in stunned silence. Daniel wasn't just framing me for the leak. He'd constructed an elaborate setup that made it look like I was a sophisticated corporate spy. We need to go nuclear, Sarah finally said.
But that's stream delay. There's a difference between everyone.
Espionage, not just a one-time leak. She was right. If Daniel had taken the green life information to Apex, there would be evidence of it in their systems.
There are some days where somebody's saying something in chat and it makes absolutely no sense to
ran into Karen from Green Life at a coffee shop near their office.
Until about
Sarah
30
had done her
seconds
research.
later.
She knew Karen stopped there every morning. After striking up a conversation and explaining who she was,
you're
Sarah
holding a
laid out her theory
conversation, you're
about
talking,
Daniel
all of a
working
sudden
for
someone in
Apex.
chat
Karen was
says,
skeptical at first,
response
but
to
became more
something.
interested when Sarah mentioned specific details about the leaked files.
Totally
All I'm
misinterpret
asking is that you check if Apex's new
Because it was something you said a
any of
couple
the
minutes
confidential
ago.
strategies from those files. Sarah told her. If they do, you'll know who really leaked them. 2 weeks later, I received an email from Melissa asking me to come in for another meeting. My stomach was in knots as I drove to the office, not knowing if I was about to be fired or cleared. When I arrived, the conference room was packed. Melissa was there, along with the legal team, Rick, and several executives. To my surprise, Karen from Green Life was also present. Thank you for coming in, Melissa began.
Why
We've
won't you?
completed our investigation into the information leak. I held my breath. Based on new evidence provided by Green Life Organics, we've determined that you were not responsible for the leak. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. Karen nodded at me from across the table. We found our confidential marketing strategy being implemented at Apex Digital, she explained.
Why are you touching me?
They claimed it came from their new hire, Daniel Martinez. Apex fired him immediately and turned over all his communications to avoid
why are you following me? Stop following me.
The evidence clearly shows he orchestrated the leak and framed you. What happens now? I asked.
Cheaters.
We're lifting your suspension, effective immediately, Melissa said, and offering you a full-time position upon completion of your internship, if you're interested. I couldn't believe it. After all the stress and uncertainty, I was not only cleared, but being offered a job. Additionally,
They know too much. Yes.
Green Life was impressed with the marketing strategy you presented before the interruption.
Joe,
They'd like you
thank
to
you for
finish
the
that
biddies,
presentation
dude.
for them next week. Karen smiled. We're also looking for someone to head our new youth marketing initiative. The position is yours if you want it. I left that meeting feeling like I was floating. 3 job offers in one day, after weeks of thinking my career was over before it began. As I was walking to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Congrats on clearing your name. Didn't think you had it in you. No hard feelings, right? Maybe we'll work together again someday. I deleted it without responding and called Sarah to share the good news. 6 months later, I was settling into my new role at Green Life. I'd chosen their offer over the others because the company culture was exactly what I wanted. Collaborative,
in your
ethical,
head,
and
who
no
is singing
tolerance for the
that?
kind of behavior Daniel had exhibited. Sarah and I moved in together, adopting a cat we named Jenkins as a weird tribute to the professor who had finally done the right thing back in community college. I occasionally heard rumors about Daniel's contacts. He bounced from job to job, never staying anywhere more than a few months. His reputation for corporate espionage followed.
The moment I
making it
saw
increasingly
those
difficult for
creatures
him to find
pop
work
up,
in
I was like,
marketing.
okay,
The last
I'm
I
out.
heard, he was trying to start his own marketing consultancy, which was failing
that was a good
spectacularly,
movie,
as no
though.
reputable company would touch it.
No,
As for me,
Well, I
finally
remember
felt
the
like I'd escaped
cartoon.
the shadow of deadbeat Daniel. My work was being
animated.
recognized. I was respected by my colleagues, and I'd learned valuable lessons about
You'd be
standing up for
surprised how
myself
old
and not
that
letting
is.
manipulative people control the narrative. Sometimes I think about how
came out in
different
the
things
50s
might
or
have been.
60s,
Yeah,
I want to say.
Daniel had
exactly.
actually changed after college if he'd used his natural charm and intelligence for good instead of
Yeah, but at various
then I
different
remember what
points,
Sarah told me
they
during
had
the
a-
investigation.
up-
Some people
I
never
forget
change
to
because they
what the
never
last
see a
one
reason
was.
to. They just get better
They
at
always
hiding who they
try
really
to
are. And
have
Daniel
a
had
version
proven her
of
right.
the-
He hadn't changed from college.
of
He's
a
just gotten more
Chipmunks cartoon.
sophisticated in his schemes until his own
When I
arrogance
was a kid,
finally
they
caught
had
up with
one.
him. I realized I was lucky, not just because I'd been
I
cleared or
grew
because
up
I'd
in the
landed a
80s.
great job, but because I'd escaped becoming like Daniel. In all our encounters,
Paying
I maintained maintained
grow
my
in the
integrity
80s.
even when it would have been easier to fight dirty. In the end, that integrity was what saved me, and it was something Daniel would never understand.